Disclaimer: it's inspired by reality, shaped by imagination.
What happens when modern Family star Julie Bowen walks onto The View and ends up in a fiery argument with Joy Behar over one of America's most divisive issues, gun control? What began as a calm discussion about public safety quickly spiraled into one of the most tense moments daytime television has ever seen. The audience came expecting laughter and celebrity gossip, but what they got was raw emotion, personal conviction, and a clash that left even the producers scrambling. At first, it was just two strong women debating policy, but as Joy's trademark sarcasm met Julie's sharp, fact-based arguments, the studio energy shifted. The tension built, the tone sharpened, and before anyone realized it, the discussion was no longer about laws. It was about values. By the end, Joy Behar would storm off the set mid-show, leaving Julie Bowen sitting alone, the crowd in stunned silence. This is the View episode that no one saw coming.
The audience was already buzzing as the View theme faded and the camera panned to the table. Joy Behar leaned back in her chair with that familiar grin, mug in hand, ready to kick off another spirited morning debate. Across from her sat Julie Bowen, poised, polished, and smiling, but with a quiet intensity in her eyes that didn't quite match the light chatter in the room. "All right," Joy began, turning to the camera. "Our next topic might ruffle some feathers. Should America have stricter gun laws, or are we going too far already?" She shot a teasing glance toward Julie. "And we've got the perfect guest to dive into it. Actress, mom, and outspoken advocate, Julie Bowen." Julie laughed softly, but her shoulders stayed square. "Thanks for having me, Joy. You know, I'm not here to preach. I just think we've reached a point where doing nothing isn't working anymore. Too many families are living with fear." The audience hummed in agreement. Joy crossed her arms. "But Julie, we already have laws, background checks, restrictions in some states. Do you really think piling on more rules is going to stop the bad guys?" Julie leaned forward. "It's not about piling on. It's about protecting people. Look, I grew up around guns in Maryland. My dad taught me how to handle one safely. But the culture has changed. Guns used to be tools. Now they're symbols of fear and anger. We can't pretend that's not happening." Joy arched her brow. "So what, we just start taking them away? Tell responsible people they can't have what their parents did?" Julie shook her head. "That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying let's have better screening, better education, and accountability. You don't need a military-grade weapon to protect your home. I mean, come on, when did common sense become controversial?" The audience clapped lightly. Joy smiled, but her tone sharpened. "You know what's controversial, Julie? Pretending that criminals care about laws. You can legislate all you want, but you'll just disarm good people while bad ones keep doing what they do." Julie's expression tightened. "That argument's convenient, but it's lazy, Joy. We've used it for years while shootings keep happening. The idea that we can't do anything is exactly why nothing changes." For a moment the table fell silent. Joy broke it with a chuckle. "Well, you sound like you're running for office. Should I start calling you Senator Bowen?" Julie smiled politely, but there was steel behind it. "If I were, I'd start by making sure kids could go to school without wondering if they'll make it home." The crowd applauded again, louder this time. Joy looked out toward them, gesturing for calm. Okay, folks, easy now. We're just talking." Then she turned back to Julie. "But don't you think it's unfair to blame law-abiding gun owners for the actions of criminals? You know that's how it comes across." Julie took a breath. "I'm not blaming anyone, Joy. I'm asking everyone to take responsibility. That's different. If your neighbor's house keeps catching fire, you don't just say, 'Well, my house is fine.' You help fix the problem before it spreads." That line landed hard. Even a few of the crew behind the cameras nodded. Joy forced a smile, but her voice carried a hint of tension now. "So, you'd trust the government? The same one that can't even run the DMV to decide who gets to own a gun?" Julie's eyes didn't waver. "I'd trust a system built on safety over one built on fear." The audience broke into applause again, louder and more divided. Some cheered, others shook their heads. The tension in the studio thickened, visible even through the screen. Joy set her mug down a little harder than she meant to. "Well, this is going to be fun." The crowd laughed nervously. The spark had been struck, and neither woman was about to back down.
The air in the studio grew heavier, as if everyone sensed what was coming. Joy leaned forward, eyes narrowed slightly, that mix of curiosity and challenge she wore like armor. Julie sat upright, calm but unwavering. It wasn't just a conversation anymore. It was a duel of conviction. Joy started, her tone sharp but controlled. Julie, you talk about safety, but the reality is there are millions of responsible gun owners in this country who never hurt anyone. Why should their rights be restricted because of a few maniacs? Julie's voice softened, but her words hit with precision. Because those few maniacs keep killing people, Julie. If something keeps breaking, you don't just say, "Oh, well, most of the time it works." You fix it. The audience broke into light applause. Joy held up her hand to quiet them, smiling tightly. You know what that sounds like, punishing everyone for the actions of a few. It's like banning cars because of drunk drivers. Julie's tone sharpened. Cars have licenses, registration, insurance, and safety standards. Guns don't. If anything, that argument proves my point. The crowd erupted, some cheering, others murmuring. Joy's smile faded for a second, and she blinked rapidly, regaining her composure. Well, that's cute, Joy shot back, voice dripping with sarcasm. But let's not compare hunting rifles to Hondas. People own guns because they don't trust the government or the system to protect them. And judging by how the country's going, can you blame them? Julie didn't flinch. Fear can't be the foundation of freedom. If we live in constant fear of one another, then we've already lost what makes this country worth protecting. That line drew applause strong enough to pause the show for a few seconds. Joy forced a grin, her voice rising. You talk about fear, but maybe you live in a bubble, Julie. Hollywood folks love to talk about guns from their gated neighborhoods. Try living in a small town where the sheriff's 40 minutes away and a break-in could mean life or death. Julie exhaled through her nose, clearly restraining herself. You think I don't know fear, Julie? I've raised 3 kids. I've sat in meetings at their schools about active shooter drills. I've had to look my son in the eye and explain what to do if he hears gunfire in the hallway. The audience went quiet. Even Joy didn't speak right away. Julie's tone softened, almost breaking. You tell me that's normal. You tell me that's freedom. The silence lasted just long enough for the weight of her words to settle. Then Joy leaned forward, defensive. It's tragic, yes, but that's a societal problem, not a gun problem. We've got broken homes, untreated mental illness, a culture of violence. Guns are just the symptom. Julie nodded slowly. Then let's treat the disease and the symptom. Why is it always either or? We can care about mental health and pass safer laws. The only reason we don't is politics and fear of upsetting the gun lobby. Applause rippled through the crowd again, stronger this time. Joy rolled her eyes, muttering under her breath, "Here we go," before addressing the camera. And there it is, Hollywood blaming the NRA for everything wrong in the country. Typical. Julie's voice didn't waver. It's not Hollywood, Joy. It's humanity. How many school shootings do we need before we stop using slogans as excuses? The applause was thunderous now. Even Whoopi, sitting quietly at the edge, glanced toward Joy as if to say, let her finish. But Joy wasn't backing down. She leaned in, voice louder now, more emotional. I'm not excusing anything. I'm saying rights matter. Once you start letting the government pick and choose who's responsible enough, you're one bad law away from losing them altogether. Julie met her gaze head on. Rights come with responsibility. That's what separates democracy from chaos. It hung in the air, simple, direct, undeniable. The studio filled with murmurs and claps, a few audience members standing briefly before sitting again. Joy gave a small laugh, though her tone carried frustration. Well, it's The View, she said lightly. If you came here for easy answers, you're watching the wrong show. The crowd laughed and clapped, but the tension didn't fade. Both women knew the conversation wasn't done. It was only heating up.
The studio lights felt brighter now, as if the tension itself had charged the air. The laughter from Joy's last remark faded fast, replaced by that unmistakable hum of anticipation. The audience knew they were watching something real unfold. Joy leaned back, her tone deceptively casual. You know, Julie, I appreciate your passion, but when celebrities start preaching about guns, it rings a little hollow. You've got bodyguards, security systems, gated homes. Most Americans don't have that luxury. The jab was sharp, deliberate. A few gasps rippled through the audience. Julie blinked slowly, her smile tight. You're right, Joy. I have security, but that doesn't mean I live in a bubble. I still walk my kids to school. I still shop for groceries. I still see the same headlines everyone else does. Joy shrugged. Headlines are one thing, reality's another. Julie's tone turned firm. Reality is parents planning funerals for their children. Reality is teachers shielding students with their bodies. You want to talk about privilege? Privilege is being able to read those stories and move on because it didn't happen to your family. The studio fell silent. Even Joy's expression softened for a beat before she masked it with a smirk. You really think stricter laws would stop that kind of evil? You can't legislate morality. Julie's voice trembled slightly, the weight of emotion creeping in. No, but you can make it harder for evil to get a weapon designed to kill dozens in seconds. Her words hit hard. The audience applauded, scattered at first, then stronger. Some people even stood. Joy shifted in her chair, not liking the shift in control. You're emotional, Julie, and I get it. You're a mom. But politics can't run on emotion. It has to run on reason, on rights. That's what keeps the system balanced. Julie's composure cracked for the first time. Reason. Where's the reason in a system that values access to weapons over access to safety? Where's the balance when we've normalized kids growing up with lockdown drills? Her voice broke mid-sentence, raw and unfiltered. She pressed her palm against the table, grounding herself. I'm not speaking as an actress right now, Joy. I'm speaking as a mother. My boys ask me what they should do if someone comes into their school with a gun, and I don't have a good answer for them. The audience went still. Not a cough, not a whisper, just silence. Joy's eyes darted down at her notes. Julie? But Julie kept going, her voice steadying with each word. We sit here, grown adults, arguing about rights while kids learn to hide in closets. We debate theories while parents are identifying their children by what they were wearing that morning. You tell me that's freedom? That's not freedom. That's failure. A loud, rolling wave of applause swept the studio. Some audience members were visibly emotional. Camera zoomed in on Julie's face. Her eyes glistened, her voice soft but cutting. Joy sat still, her smile gone. She tried to regain footing. Look, no one's minimizing tragedy here, but blaming guns for violence is like blaming forks for obesity. It's not that simple. Julie looked at her, calm but exhausted. No, it's not simple, but pretending it's complicated is how we do nothing. The line struck hard. Even Joy blinked, caught off guard. Julie, Joy said, voice a little quieter now. You can't fix the world with laws. There's human nature, there's evil. Julie interrupted, her tone firm. You can make it harder for evil to win. You can make it harder for a kid to get his hands on an AR-15 than on a driver's license. The applause came again, this time with whistles and cheers. Even Joy looked momentarily rattled by the energy in the room. Julie continued, her words measured but powerful. If the price of our comfort is our children's safety, then maybe we need to get uncomfortable. A few audience members stood and clapped. The emotion on Julie's face wasn't performatic. It was raw, maternal, deeply human. She looked like someone who had been holding this in for years. Joy's lips tightened. You're good, Julie. You're really good. But emotion doesn't make policy. Facts do. Her gaze locked on hers. Then let's face those facts, Joy. The countries that passed stricter laws saw fewer shootings. Ours just saw more funerals. The room burst again with noise, applause, murmurs, and camera flashes from audience phones. It wasn't a debate anymore. It was a reckoning. Joy took a sip from her mug, hiding the faint tremor in her hand.
She forced a laugh. "You really came ready for a fight today, huh?" Julie smiled, her voice calm but cutting. "I didn't come to fight, Joy. I came to remind people that we can do better, that we should do better." The camera lingered on her face for a long, charged moment before cutting to a wide shot of the studio. The energy was electric, some viewers cheering, others shaking their heads, but no one could look away. The emotional tide had shifted entirely. Joy looked frustrated, flustered, her trademark humor faltering. The next words out of her mouth would either reclaim the stage or break it completely. And everyone in that studio knew it.
By now, the tension was palpable. Even the production crew behind the cameras looked uneasy. Joy Behar was gripping her mug a little too tightly, her jaw clenched beneath her trademark grin. Julie Bowen sat still, hands folded, composed, but her silence was no retreat. It was the calm before the final storm. Joy leaned forward, voice rising just slightly. "You know, Julie, I've got to say, this conversation has gone from emotional to self-righteous. You act like anyone who disagrees with you doesn't care about kids or safety. That's unfair." Julie blinked once, slowly. "I never said that, Joy. I said that refusing to change because it's uncomfortable costs lives. There's a difference." Joy scoffed. "Oh, please. You're simplifying a complex issue to get applause." She gestured toward the audience, her tone sharpening. "Half the people in here probably agree with me, and they're sick of Hollywood coming on TV crying about problems they don't understand." The words hung heavy. The crowd shifted uneasily. Some clapped, others booed. Julie leaned forward now, her voice even but icy. "You keep calling it a Hollywood issue, Joy, but violence doesn't check zip codes. This isn't about fame, it's about people." Joy interrupted, waving a hand. "Spare me the sermon. You're sitting in designer heels telling working families how to live. You don't know what it's like out there." Julie's tone snapped like a whip. "Don't patronize me, Joy. I come from a working family. My dad was in construction. My mom was a teacher. I didn't grow up in Beverly Hills. I worked to get where I am." The audience broke into applause again, but Joy cut over it, raising her voice. "Then you should know better than to parrot the same old talking points. You think passing a few laws will fix the human condition? You're living in fantasy land." Julie's composure cracked. She stood slightly in her chair, voice steady but blazing. "You know what's fantasy, Joy? Thinking we can just pray away violence while doing nothing to prevent it." The audience gasped. Joy's eyes flashed, offense and fury colliding at once. "Excuse me? You don't get to question people's faith or morals on this show." Julie didn't back down. "Then stop using faith as a shield for inaction." The words sliced the air. The entire studio froze. Joy slammed her palm on the table. "You've got some nerve," she snapped. "You come on my show and lecture me like you're some kind of savior?" Julie exhaled slowly, her voice calm again, almost sorrowful. "I'm not here to save anyone, Joy. I'm here because people keep dying and we keep pretending it's normal." That line detonated like a bomb. The audience erupted. Cheers, applause, even a few shouts. The camera cut between Joy's clenched expression and Julie's solemn face. Joy laughed, but it was bitter this time. "You're unbelievable. You really think you're the voice of reason? You think because you starred on a sitcom, you're suddenly a policy expert?" Julie shook her head, standing up now fully. "I think I'm a human being who's tired of excuses. If that makes me unreasonable, then so be it." Her voice carried through the studio, powerful and resonant. For a moment, even the lights felt still. Joy stood too, eyes flashing with anger. "You know what, Julie? You've had your speech. Congratulations! You've turned a serious issue into your personal crusade." Julie's expression softened, but her words landed like thunder. "If caring about the lives of kids is a crusade, then maybe we need more of them." The crowd roared. Cheers and applause filled the studio. Even Whoopi, watching quietly from the corner, looked genuinely moved. However, Joy was trembling, not with fear, but frustration. Her face was red now, her tone sharp.
You don't come on my set and grandstand like that." Julie stared at her calmly. Maybe someone needs to. Joy's hand hit the table again. "I'm done with this," she said, shaking her head. "I'm not going to sit here and be talked down to by someone who thinks emotion equals truth." The audience booed, some shouting, "Let her finish!" Julie took a breath, then delivered the line that silenced the entire room. "Emotion is truth, Joy. It's what we've ignored for too long." The words landed with a quiet power that no retort could match. The crowd went dead silent for a heartbeat, then exploded into applause so loud it drowned out the host's mic. Joy's eyes flashed with disbelief. She muttered something under her breath, removed her earpiece, and, without another word, stood and walked off the set. The audience gasped. Some even stood, phones raised, recording. Julie just stood there stunned but composed, watching Joy disappear backstage. The camera panned to Julie as she finally exhaled, her voice soft and steady. "I didn't come here to fight. I came here to ask why we're so afraid to listen." The studio erupted again, but this time the applause felt heavier, somber, reflective. As the producer called for a commercial break, Julie sat back down, her expression unreadable. She looked tired, not triumphant. Around her, the set buzzed with chaos, assistants scrambling, audience members whispering. But the damage, or the awakening, was already done.
When the show returned from commercial, the atmosphere in the studio felt completely different. The applause from the audience had quieted into an uneasy hush. The co-hosts were gone, the set lights slightly dimmed, and only Julie Bowen sat at the table, alone, calm, and still processing what had just happened. Craig from production whispered something off camera, and Julie gave a faint nod before addressing the viewers directly. Her tone was quiet, reflective, almost tender. "I didn't mean for that to turn into what it did," she said, offering a small, tired smile. "I respect Joy. She's been doing this a long time. We just care about the same country in different ways." There was a soft murmur of agreement from the audience. Julie continued, her voice steadying. "I think that's the real problem right now. We stop listening the second someone disagrees. We shout louder instead of hearing what's underneath." She paused, her eyes drifting to the crowd. "I didn't come here to win an argument. I came here to start a conversation." A few audience members clapped gently, and Julie smiled faintly. "I believe in America's right to bear arms, but I also believe in our responsibility to protect one another. Those ideas shouldn't be enemies. They should coexist. The problem isn't guns. The problem is that we've stopped valuing empathy as much as freedom." The words lingered, heavy, but hopeful. She took a small sip of water and sighed. "You know, I've played a lot of characters in my life, but being a mom, that's the only role that ever really scared me. Because you can't script safety. You can't guarantee it. You just do your best. And I think that's what we're all trying to do. Our best." The audience clapped again, louder this time. Julie glanced off stage where Joy had stormed out minutes earlier. "I hope Joy's okay," she added softly. "We're passionate because we care. And maybe that's a good place to start. Care before you argue." A faint laugh rippled through the crowd, easing the tension. Julie smiled. "That's all I really wanted to say." As the credits began to roll, the camera zoomed out. The audience stood, giving her a gentle standing ovation. It wasn't wild or performative, just sincere. A few people wiped their eyes. By the time the episode ended, clips of Joy's walk-off were already trending online. Hashtags like Julie versus Joy, The View Meltdown, and Guns and Grace flooded Twitter. Some viewers praised Julie's composure. Others defended Joy's outrage. But everyone was talking. For once, the noise wasn't just about sides. It was about what the argument had revealed, a country torn between rights and empathy, fear and responsibility, pride and pain. And as one viewer tweeted, summarizing what millions were thinking, "Julie Bowen didn't just win an argument. She made America stop and feel again." If you enjoyed this dramatic showdown, make sure to subscribe for more viral celebrity debates, emotional clashes, and unforgettable TV moments. And tell us below, do you think gun laws in America should be stricter or looser?